Hey everyone, Mike Doloff at Inflow. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer here. Got with me our CTO, Chris Mitchell. Chris, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, glad to be talking today with you a little bit about the state of unified communications as a service, UCaaS, in 2020. We're sitting here kind of the middle to the second half of 2020. Wanted to give you kind of a status on where we see the UC as a service industry or space right now. And so share out an infographic we put together here and a blog that's got some more details around it, but wanted to talk about this and really pick Chris's brain a little bit about it since he's really on the front lines as when it comes to the UCaaS technology. But first, to give you a little context on how we've framed up this discussion or think about the landscape of UCaaS. And so we put this together too because we feel like there's so many moving pieces and parts, new suppliers coming and going. Everyone's got their own marketing spin on UCaaS. So it's really hard to tell what sort of fact from fiction and what's going on. This is something we live and breathe every day though. So we wanted to try to distill this down into something graphical here and make it simple for our customers and other folks who are interested in the UCaaS space to try to benefit from this. And we really focus this on the as a service side. So there's no prem systems in the evaluation here, although there are some players on this list that we put as examples that have premise solutions. This is purely cloud. And we really thought the cleanest way to group sort of buckets of the providers here in the UCaaS space would be around really their core strengths. Their core strengths that are their providers that their core strengths are really in telephony at the top, and their core or providers where their core strengths are really around collaboration, which means video messaging and meetings. And so those are kind of the two big buckets. And then you've got folks that are in the both side. And as you can see from the arrows, the both is clearly where this space is going. That's where the leaders in this space are at. That's where everyone's trying to drive towards. That's the promised land. And you have certainly a lot of providers there today. The other thing to note is this is a very crowded space. This is only a small handful of some of the providers out there. We've done this on the CCaaS, the contact center side. And for the most part, we can pretty much list everybody out there, just about. The UCaaS is not even going to attempt. There are so many out there still that aren't represented. We bucketed some of those, like the BroadSoft-based ones. There's many of those. The Metaswitch ones. There's many of those into just broad groups. But this is a sampling, I think, of a lot of the leaders in the space and a lot of the big categories. So with that, and a little bit of context of how we've thought about UCaaS, I want to turn it over to Chris here and ask him a few questions as we dig a little deeper into what's going on in UCaaS. So Chris, you're out there seeing this every day. We just talked about that kind of that both category being the promised land, the place where the leaders are going. Do you really see any providers that are making really big strides towards that both category in the UCaaS space?
Yeah, like you said, the both category is where all the UCaaS providers really want to be. You saw on the list there are some providers who are already there, but we're seeing 3 providers who are making the biggest push, towards that both goal. So the first one being Zoom. As we all know, Zoom dominates the video space. They have about 13 million.
Zoom? Never heard of that company.
Exactly. Small 13 million, monthly users. They started out, a couple years ago working on a Zoom phone product. They released it in January of 2019, and they're investing over 20 million a quarter into R&D and everything to make Zoom Video and Zoom Phone, a major player in that space, and they're gaining a lot of traction, and that's right now. The second one is Microsoft. Their Teams platform, especially with with COVID and everything going on, they broke 75 million monthly users, during over the summer, and so they dominate the enterprise collaboration space. They recently acquired Metaswitch, so they've realized that their PBX capabilities of the Teams platform is the weakest point, and they're really working to improve that through integrations and through features being added to it. The last one, the third one, is Mitel. They gained some real good momentum when a few years ago when they bought ShoreTel. They bought the Connect platform from them. And over the last couple of years, they've been migrating and integrating the Mitel and ShoreTel products together. So now they have their MyCloud Connect product, which offers PBX, meetings, and video collaboration all together without having to bring in a third party. That was a huge improvement, but by not having to bring in somebody else. And so they're all trying to, those are 3 companies really trying to move into that both category right now.
That's awesome. Fascinating. No doubt that this time next year, we'll have a different conversation around this because there's some massive gains being made in a short amount of time. Very cool. Well, the next question for you, Chris. BYOC. This is a phrase maybe some, but probably not all have heard. Bring your own carrier. And maybe you can elaborate a little bit on what that means, but also, do you see the BYOC concept in UCaaS as a fringe or a mainstream trend? And maybe explain briefly what it is too.
Yeah, so bring your own carrier. It's the option of buying a cloud service, but not necessarily using that cloud service as your dial tone provider. So maybe you're in a 3-year contract, but you really want to go to the cloud, but you don't want to pay the termination fees with, with your existing carrier. And I definitely say mainstream, and the biggest reason is the cloud PBX landscape has matured over the last few years, and with that, maturing, we've seen a steady increase of enterprise customers, our own and other people migrating to the cloud, and their needs are completely different than what, say, a small business needs are. So enterprise customers, like I said, they may have existing relationship with a carrier that they need to be able to utilize or something. So that bring your own carrier option to them has given enterprise customers the capability of moving towards the cloud. And there's really been 3 companies that I'm seeing the most, they're winning the most deals when it comes to BYOC. So the first one being Microsoft Teams. They're really making a push with their direct routing. There's tons of people talking about it. They have over 30 session border controllers now certified, so that you can use it to integrate carriers. You can use it to integrate, with other phone systems, other contact center platforms. So they're making a big push with their direct routing options. A second one being RingCentral. There was one of the companies in the both category. They released a RingCentral Persist. It's an on-site session border controller, or SBC, that allows you to have BYOC, connection to a provider. One of their bigger customers really wanted this capability for local survivability, and that what makes it a little bit unique is that it provides soft phone and physical phone local survivability along with dial tone connection. So if you lose your internet, you lose connection to RingCentral, that's perfectly fine. You can have soft phones and physical phones still ring, right? And for placing and receiving calls, which is nice. The third one, we've already talked about as well, is Zoom Phone. They're still a newer player. We talked about they only released in January 2019, but they're making a big push. And they released BYOC less than 6 months after release, and that's allowed them to really put themselves in a lot of deals that they're probably not mature enough to be in, but because they have that bring your own carrier option and customers are already used to using the Zoom video product, they're finding themselves in a lot of enterprise deals right now.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I think you're right. Enterprise companies driving that demand. I think if you compare it to the CCaaS, the contact center landscape, I would say the contact center, it's almost table stakes to have BYOC now. Like almost every provider has it. Whereas UC, it's like you said, there's a handful, and that's growing though as more and more folks get into the enterprise space. So interesting trend. And I would agree. It seems pretty mainstream now. It's becoming mainstream in UCaaS. So within the UCaaS space as a whole, there's tons we could talk about, but really interested to get your take on what's another area within UCaaS, Chris, that people should be watching and looking out for here? What's something that's sort of a salient theme that you're seeing in your conversations?
Yeah, you've probably seen this as well, Mike, because as talking to customers, the unified communications platform within a company is more than just a PBX anymore. They need it to help their teams and their departments be more productive. They need it to integrate in with other platforms that they have. If it's a CRM, if it's an accounting platform, whatever they're using, instant messaging or something like that. So providers that are having the biggest year-over-year growth, they all have one thing in common, and they have an open platform that is API centric. So meaning if I want us to be able to sell a product to a customer and that customer has, needs to integrate with other products, I need to make that product attractive to developers. If it's easy to use and it's free to use and develop on, and to have an ecosystem where if I develop an app as a developer, that I can market it and I can sell it to people, and as a user I can log on and say, oh, I need a CRM integration. I can hop onto this web this interface and say, oh, CRM, and look through all the different products that are being published and available. That ecosystem is really what's helping those companies grow really fast, and those developers are signing on faster and faster. There's a few providers that I've talked to that their developer logins that they're issuing per year are growing by more than 30% a year. So there's a ton more integrations coming, and a ton more available, or a ton that are already available right now.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Certainly seems to be a massive trend that is, I think if you look at the leaders, that's one of the areas where they all are excelling in various levels as well. This has been great, Chris. Appreciate your insights in talking about the state of UCaaS. We've put together a blog that kind of dives deeper into these topics that we discussed and more. And definitely appreciate, Chris, you sharing some of your wisdom as you're out there talking with folks. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Follow, like, subscribe to our video feed. We've got lots of other content coming out constantly. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. Love to chat. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good day.